Hi, how you doing? I'm Don Harrold, and this is Sunday, March the 16th, 2008. I was going to talk with you today about Jim Cramer, and only Jim Cramer. I got a phone call from my friend Doug Newberry at Investing Systems. And Doug said, Don, have you seen the news about Bear Stearns? Now, I hadn't seen it yet. I mean, who watches the financial news on a Sunday afternoon, right? But it got me thinking, let's don't talk about Jim Cramer in the macro. Let's start by talking about Jim Cramer specifically on Bear Stearns. It's a golden opportunity for some of you who have not been introduced to the horror show that is Jim Cramer. Watch Jim Cramer talk about Bear Stearns last Tuesday. Keep in mind at the time, Bear Stearns was somewhere around 63, 64 a share. Here's Jim Cramer on Bear Stearns last Tuesday when the Dow was up 400 points. Jim's advice on Bear Stearns.
Should I be worried about Bear Stearns in terms of liquidity and get my money out of there? No, no, no. Bear Stearns is fine. Do not take your money out. This is real. Look, if there's one takeaway other than the plus 400 somewhere, Bear Stearns is not in trouble. I mean, if anything, they're more likely to be taken over. Don't move your money from Bear. That's just being silly. Don't be silly.
Now, we know what happened, right? We know that that was the most horrible advice you could have given someone on Bear Stearns. We also know that Bear Stearns collapsed on Friday to close somewhere around 30 a share. And so I watched Jim Cramer's show Mad Money on Friday to find out what Jim would say about Bear Stearns. I mean, it's one of his worst stock picks ever, right, at that point in time. So here's Jim Cramer on Mad Money on Friday talking about Bear Stearns. Well, actually, he didn't talk about Bear Stearns. That's why I didn't cut away, because he said nothing about Bear Stearns. So Jim says nothing about Bear Stearns. Now, if you don't know what the news is on Bear Stearns, let me read you a quote from an AP article about the news on Bear Stearns. J.P. Morgan Chase said Sunday it will acquire rival Bear Stearns in a deal valued at $236 million or $2 a share. Wow! Wow! $2 a share? Now, we're going to get back to that deal in a moment, but I want to talk about Jim Cramer for a second. And I went to the Yahoo message boards, the Yahoo Finance message boards, and there are people who have lost everything on Bear Stearns. There are people who invested a lot of money in that company and on the advice of people like Jim Cramer. And guess what? They've lost it all. Now, I'm going to speak directly to the CNBC executives who watch my show. I know you do, because I see your on-air anchors reference my videos. So I want to ask you, CNBC executives, when are you going to let him go? When are you cutting Jim loose? How many investors does he have to hurt before you decide to pull the plug on Jim Cramer? How many flip-flops, how many doublespeaks, how many lies, how many bad picks does Jim Cramer have to hammer people with? Is Bear Stearns the last? Is this the last time? No, it's not the last time. Don't worry. I plan on doing a full 10-minute, full-length statistical breakdown in an upcoming video on Jim Cramer's picks this year. Maybe some of you out there will write CNBC or write your congressman or write SEC or somebody and hold Jim Cramer accountable for the way he's hurting investors. Because although he said nothing about Bear Stearns on his show on Friday, I'm telling you right now, you need to do something about it. You need to turn his show off, and you need to contact CNBC and let somebody know if you've been hurt. Now, lest you think that I'm just going to talk about Jim Cramer, I want to go deeper into this article about Bear Stearns. I want to get down to the part about the Federal Reserve. The Fed will provide special financing to J.P. Morgan for the deal. J.P. Morgan said, the central bank has agreed to fund up to $30 billion of Bear Stearns' less liquid assets. Risky bets on securities tied to subprime mortgages, loans given to customers with poor credit history, crippled Bear Stearns. Okay. At the same time, as the deal for control of Bear Stearns was announced, the Federal Reserve says it's approved a cut in its lending rate to banks to 3.25% from 3.5%. Now listen to me. Listen. The Federal Reserve just took the Federal Reserve, an unelected, unaccountable, outside any sort of culpability, an organization came along and said, there's no free market here. we're taking Bear Stearns out of the free market. And we're going to fund J.P. Morgan, one of our shareholders, because the Federal Reserve is a privately held corporation, one of the shareholders of which is J.P. Morgan. The Federal Reserve says we're going to give J.P. Morgan $30 billion, and investors get nothing. You get nothing, investors. You get nothing. Now, Thomas Jefferson said something 200 years ago that I want to read to you. Thomas Jefferson said, "I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs." Thomas Jefferson in 1802. Listen to me. You didn't vote for Ron Paul in the primaries. Fine. You keep watching CNBC. Okay. You keep allowing your congressman to vote to hand away the sovereignty of our dollar to an organization called the Federal Reserve, which is continuing to pound our dollar to zero. And the most egregious example of literally stealing from the American people just occurred with Bear Stearns. Just occurred. The Federal Reserve dropped interest rates to almost zero, pounding people into these risky loans because everybody in America had to be a homeowner. And people like Bear Stearns put all their money into leveraged deals that supposedly were surefire bets as the housing market was just going to keep skyrocketing forever. As that's unwound, Bear Stearns' CEO got to look into a camera on live TV in interview after interview and say there was no problem. Everything was just fine. And investors bought it. And the Federal Reserve just bailed out J.P. Morgan while the investors in Bear Stearns get nothing. Absolutely nothing. Oh, I guess $2 a share, that's something. And who knows? Maybe another deal will come out as soon as Bear shareholders panic and sell their stock. Maybe we'll hear on Tuesday or Wednesday that the stock is valued at $30 a share again. Who knows? Who knows? All I'm telling you is you as an investor have got to start thinking and getting away from the lies of mainstream Wall Street, turning off the Jim Cramers of the world, tuning in to logic and getting away from the hype. And stop allowing, if you can, either vote, which I don't even know if that works anymore. You've got to vote. You've got to tell your friends. You've got to do something different in your personal life to affect change around you. As long as the Federal Reserve runs this country, investors, homeowners, companies, the little guy, the dollar will continue to lose value. Now, I intended to talk about Jim Cramer. It's bigger than Jim Cramer. What this is about is a crooked, rigged system that on a Sunday afternoon, when no one can do a damn thing about it, the Federal Reserve dropped interest rates for banks, propped up J.P. Morgan, handed $30 billion over to one of their own, and screwed investors real hard and real public. How long are we going to stand for it? How long are we as a people going to stand for what's happening to our economy and our country? If our founding fathers would rise from the grave right now and could look you square in the face, they would ask you, how do you keep voting for people that have ruined your currency, stolen your property, stolen your freedoms, are tapping your phones, are reading your mail, are torturing people, are crushing the currency that they fought so hard to give to us? How would our founding fathers react if they saw us sitting on our fat American asses, allowing this to happen right now under our noses? They'd be ashamed. They'd be absolutely sickened by what they see. And if you don't start voting, if you don't start making changes in your life right now, if you don't start spreading the word, if you don't do something different, if we don't do something different, our children will have nothing left. It's not about Jim Cramer. It's not even about the stock market. It's about an unelected, unaccountable organization that runs everything. Until they're gone, we're screwed. And I'm asking you right now to think very hard about what I said. I'm asking you to try to make some changes in your life. I'm Don Harrold. Take care. I'll see you next commentary. Bye-bye.